Hello, my name is Campbell. I teach at the University of Tampa, and today we're going to be working on the G scale together. I play on a trigger trombone, so you're going to see me using my trigger slide positions, but if you just have a regular trombone with no trigger, no worries, this will work for you as well, because I'm going to show you all of the slide positions you need as well. But anyway, let's dive into it. The G scale starts on G, the low G, which is going to be 4th position. Then we're going to move to 2nd position A. Now make sure it's not halfway in between 1st position and 3rd position. It's a little bit closer to 1st position. Then B flat, which is in 1st position. Then this is one of the ones that we can do depending if you have a trigger or not. You can move all the way out to 7th position, which for me is essentially the length of my arm. For you, it might be a little bit further. Or if you're using a trigger, you can use trigger and 2nd position. Then we move to C, which is just a little bit closer in. When I go from my 7 to my 6, it's literally just kind of the turn of my wrist. I'm not going too far. But with the trigger, you can go from that trigger to just trigger by itself for the C. Then we move to D in 4th position. E natural in 2nd position. F sharp in that oh so notorious 5th position. And then G in 4th position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my metronome on 60. I'm going to give us 4 beats, and then I'm going to play the scale going up in whole notes. Let's try that. All right, so now that we can go up, let's work on coming down. Starts on that G that we ended up on, moves back down to that F sharp in 5th position, 2nd position E natural, 4th position D, and then if you're not using a trigger, you want to go out to C in 6th position. If you're using a trigger, you want to use the trigger in 1st position for the C. Then to go from the C to the B natural is in 7th position for those without a trigger, or in trigger 2nd position if you have a trigger. All the way to A in 2nd position. And then finally G in 4th position. So just like we did earlier, we're going to play our scale in whole notes, descending this time. Great, so once we have the scale down and we're doing that really well, we want to add the arpeggio, which just outlines the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and the octave or the 1 or the 8, the top note of the scale. So it starts on the 1, the G, then moves to the 3rd, the B natural, which we'll either do trigger 2 again or 7th position, then D, 4th position, and then G again, 4th position. Just like what we did with the scale, we're going to do this in whole notes, metronome at 60, 4 beats, and we're in. Let's go up the arpeggio. Great, now that we can go up the arpeggio, let's work on coming down. So we're going to go from that 4th position G down to a 4th position D, then B natural in either 7 or trigger 2, and then land on G in 4th position. So let's try that like we did with the other scale. Metronome at 60, 4 beats, descending down the arpeggio. Cool, so now that we can play both the scale and the arpeggio, let's put them together and form what we call the all-state pattern. The only other thing other than just going up and down the scale and the arpeggio that the all-state pattern does is it also has a little bit of a rhythm to it. That rhythm is half note, then quarters up, land on a half note, quarters down, half note, quarters up the arpeggio, half note, quarters down the arpeggio. That half note every single time is the name of the scale, in this case G. So let's put our metronome on and actually sing through the scale in our all-state pattern and work on doing the all-state pattern while we move our slide around and singing at the same time. I bet if we can do that, we'll be able to play it a lot easier. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G, B, D, G, D, B, G. Great, so now that we've sang it, let's try playing it now. Now it can be a little tricky for those of you who don't have a trigger to go from G to A and then all the way out to B natural, right? And then you're so used to going fast that you're gonna also try to come up really quick on the C. Remember, B to C is not that far, and really the best thing you can do to go from A to B natural really quickly is make sure that you're not stiff in your arm as you move far away. You don't want to use a ton of arm. If you watch, it's mostly my wrist that moves everything. And then also my slide is really well taken care of, so I'm not fighting it. So that'll help you go from the A to the B pretty quickly like we're doing in playing the all-state pattern. But once you've got the scale going really well at 60, let's ramp it up a little bit and try it at 80 now. Now let's push things just a little bit more and do it at 100. Now that we've got it really good at 100, let's try it at the fastest that we're going to take it today at 120. Now the last variant that we're going to do of the all-state pattern is we're going to kind of keep it at that 120, but if I take that 120 and cut it in half, that's actually 60, which we did earlier, but what we're going to do is most of the time you will actually see the all-state pattern written out as quarter and then eighth notes, not half and then quarter notes. So they kind of make things twice as fast. So if we play it at 60, we're going to be able to play it essentially at the 120, but with a different rhythmic pattern. Not only is this the way you're mostly going to see it, but it's also a really easy way to not have your metronome going at like 200 when you start really rocking out on this scale. But just like we did when we first learned the all-state pattern, because we're kind of thinking about it in a different way, let's go ahead and sing it and move our slide around with it, just to make sure that we've really got our head wrapped around this kind of new rhythmic thought process. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G, B, D, G, D, B, G. All right, now that we've done all that, let's go ahead and play it at quarter eighth notes at 60. Awesome, so keep working it up, make sure you get it really good, and once you can really rock it at 120, push yourself and see if you can go a little bit faster. Thank you so much for practicing your G scale with me today.